everybody, and welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. I'm Robbie Robertson, along with Oklahoma State head basketball coach Eddie Sutton. Good week this past week for the Cowboys. They knocked off non-conference opponent Southeastern Louisiana and then posted a Big 8 conference victory over Kansas State. And, Coach, you said last week it'd be good to get home, and by golly, it was, wasn't it?
It was a wonderful feeling walking back into Gallagher-Iba Arena on Wednesday evening. It was only the second game we'd played there in 35 days, and then, of course, we got back into Big 8 action on Saturday against Kansas State. The team played well in both games in the first half. In the game with Southeast Louisiana, I wasn't sure they were going to get into double figures, and they almost didn't. They ended up with 12 points, and by that time we had 48. In the game with Kansas State, we rolled out to a 43-28 lead at halftime. In both second halves, we didn't play quite as well, but we were able to win an upper record of 13-4 and 2-2 in conference play. Byron Houston led us again in both ball games. In the game with Southeast Louisiana, he had 35 points and 17 rebounds. The other night, or other afternoon against Kansas State, he only had 16 points, got in foul trouble, still hit double figures in the rebounding department with 12, and was named the Big 8 Player of the Week. This was not the most productive week for Byron. There were a couple times this year I thought he should have been Big 8 Player of the Year, but congratulations to Byron on an honor well deserved.
And congratulations to the Cowboys for winning twice this past week. We will take a look at the highlights of both games, and the coach will comment more on victories over Southeastern Louisiana and Kansas State as the Eddie Sutton Show continues. This past Wednesday, Oklahoma State stepped out of the Big 8 Conference and played host to Southeastern Louisiana. The Cowboys won the game easily, 88-46. We'll take a look at some of those highlights. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but the last time Oklahoma State held a team to that few points and a half, you played in it, didn't you?
That's what the Sports Information Office told me. There's a great pass from Johnny Pittman, what we call high-low, to Byron Houston. That was the opening score in this ball game. In 1957, we played the Billikens of St. Louis, and they only got 11 points in the first half, but I think the score was 27-11 at halftime.
Sean with a trade. You kind of had it going inside and outside against it.
Well, again, the main thing that we were able to do both games this week, our defense was sensational the first two in the halves, the first of the ball games. Second half, we lost a little of our intensity in both contests, but good effort.
Good pass to Pittman.
I can never fault the effort on the part of our ball club. They've given everything they can give. But we did have good outside shooting in both games and good inside shooting, and that's a tough combination for the other ball club.
Matias kind of broke out.
Matias broke out. I mean, there's you can see his teammates, they're excited, and he's even more excited. But I think that gives a shot of the togetherness that we have on our ball club. You know, basketball is a team game, and everybody has a role to play. I always hear that term role, but everyone has a role. And it's the coach's responsibility and the team's responsibility, the players, to blend together and to make that a good team. And there's no place for selfishness. And I don't think there's a selfish bone in any of our young men's bodies. I think they're all dedicated to the purpose. The bottom line is for the team to win and be successful. And I think that was a great shot.
You had an opportunity to play a lot of players in the Southeast Louisiana game, and you could see the genuine enthusiasm as the starters were on the bench and some of the other guys who were playing and played well. You could see their enthusiasm during the course of the game.
Well, that's one of our main points in coaching, is to try to express those guys that everybody's got to put their feet in the circle. Everyone's a part of the ball club, and we'll cheer for one another. I'm very demanding when I tell them, don't ever criticize one of your teammates. If you can't say something good, don't say it, because the coaches probably criticize enough. A very unusual game in that you score 88 points and you only have one player in double figures. I guess that's what you call balanced
That's
scoring.
balance.
I think we had 5 players that scored 6 or more, and we did play a lot of folks. And Byron led our ball club with 35 points, but only played 29 minutes. In the 2 games this week, I think he had 51 points, and he only took 22 field goal attempts. So if you hit every one of those and he didn't take any three-point shots, you'd have 44 points. So that means that he goes to the line a lot, and people that score a lot of points usually get to the free throw line.
Now, the victory over Southeastern Louisiana ran the Cowboys' record to 12-4 on the year. And then this past Saturday, back into Big 8 conference play, Kansas State came to town, and Byron had to sit out almost 11 minutes of the second half because of foul trouble. But The Cowboys responded and beat K-State by 15, 85-70.
Kansas State displayed a lot of defenses. Here they were in 1-3-1, and Sean stepped forward and hit the three-point shot. He was leading the Big 8 in three-point percentage. I don't know, I think he went this week, he might have dropped a little bit, but he has given us a lot of good outside shooting. Nice drive by Corey Williams. In both games, our three guards, Corey, Darwyn, and Sean, displayed outstanding play at both ends of the floor. Good passing. Darwyn Alexander misses. Nice weak side rebound by Milt Brown. Milt snapped out of it this week, too. We talked about Matthias. There's one of our great fans. He's dressed up for the occasion.
Dressed up for the day.
I like to see that. That's what a lot of big basketball programs around the country, those students, they get into the game and they do dress in some strange gear. Nice pass by Byron off to Johnny Pittman, and John played very well in this ball game. He was 5 out of 5, I believe, from the field.
Here's a great pass from Sean. We'll take another look at this to Byron. Wow.
Very good broken floor play. Byron has wonderful hands. If you can get the ball to him like that, he normally is going to complete the play. You always give the passer a lot of credit, and sometimes we don't give the guy that catches the ball enough credit. K-State made a run at us here in the second half, and again our guards, Corey, Darwyn, and Sean stepped forward. They were 13 out of 19 from the field, or in this ball, 14 out of 20 from the field.
Put back by Corey right there.
First time this year, all three of them have scored in double figures. Sean led the ball club with 17, and Darwyn had 16, and Corey had 13.
Defense by Pittman.
Good block by Johnny Pittman. Good fast break ball movement, and Corey Williams, with that accelerating speed that he has, drove right into the paint and jumped up and knocked it down.
Darwyn Alexander, real tough down the stretch, 8 for 8 from the free throw line.
He, too, was leading in one category last week in the Big 8, the best free throw percentage. He won it last year, and he is tough, and you want to keep the ball in his hands late in the ball game. Nice lead pass, and that put the icing on the cake, and you see I'm walking down to congratulate their coaching staff.
You win the ball game by 15. You had a 17-point lead early in the second half, and then K-State started chipping away there. A couple of the players that I talked to, Coach, after the game said K-State may be the most physical group around. That was a physical ball game, wasn't it?
I think everybody in the Big Eight's pretty physical. You know,
Yeah,
I know
I
some of the coaches have been complaining about that, but I look at a lot of film, and when you play in conference play, the intensity level raises up. I mean, you can play non-conference games, but when you get into conference play, especially early in the year, everyone feels like they're in the hunt. Everyone feels like they got a chance to win the league race. But Kansas State came back in the second half and played very well, and their defense was very sound. They changed their defenses. Oftentimes coaches are critical of their own ball club, and they're not willing to give the other team enough credit. And I think Dana Altman and his staff did an outstanding job in bringing their ball club back in that second half. And there were a few anxious moments that I get a little nervous when Byron's over there on the bench next to me, but the rest of our players step forward, and that's what you have to have when your key people are not playing well or they're in foul trouble. Someone else has to step forward, and I thought our young men did that Saturday. Big win for us, even a record at 2-2 in the league race.
Yeah, very interesting Saturday. As a matter of fact, this past Saturday in the Big 8 race, we'll take a look at what happened around the conference. Nebraska shocked Oklahoma in Norman, 111-99. I don't know, maybe that's not a shock. Missouri beat Iowa State 82-78. That game played in Columbia. And Kansas at home walloped Colorado 95-62. So here's the way the Big 8 race stands as we start another week. Missouri leading 4-1. They're 12-5 overall. Then Nebraska at 3-1. Oklahoma at 3-2, and then the Cowboys at 2-2, 13-4 overall. Kansas and Colorado also 2-2. Iowa State is 1-3, and K-State has yet to win in the Big 8 race thus far. But not a whole lot of difference between 1 and 7 in that conference race right now, Coach.
Good balance. Right now, I would say Nebraska's in the driver's seat. There have been 17 conference games played, and only 2 road victories, both belonging to the Cornhuskers. They've beaten Kansas State and Manhattan, and I would think that was an upset in Norman.
Yeah.
The Sooners don't lose too often down there, but they were certainly beaten Saturday by the University of Nebraska.
Danny Nee's got a good ball club. Cowboys go on the road twice this week against Colorado and Nebraska. We'll talk about those games a little later on in the show. Coming up next, a look at the newest Spirit Group on the Oklahoma State campus. You stay with us as the Eddie Sutton Show continues. On numerous occasions, Coach Sutton has commented on how valuable crowd support can be in the Gallagher-Iba Arena. Now, on your next trip to a Cowboy basketball game, take a look at the gang sitting in the southeast corner of the arena courtside. That's where you'll find the Young Guns. At first glance, a basketball game in Gallagher-Iba Arena appears normal. The band is playing, the palms are shaking, and the coaches and players are working. But upon closer inspection, there's something new this year in Gallagher-Iba. They are called the Young Guns, and they are in place to give the crowd permission to get rowdy.
Basically went around campus just posting up signs explaining the idea. It was kind of rushed because it was only started 2 weeks before basketball season started. And to make something like this go, we wanted to have everything organized and ready to go. So what we did is started getting people spreading the word. We had 2 meetings. We had a lot of sponsors gather together and pitch in for shirts and things like that. We got the shirts all drawn up. By the first game, it was labeled Organized Intimidation Along the Baseline.
Struble and his cohort, Amjad Ayubi, talked to Athletic Director Jim Garner about their plan. Garner was supportive of good, clean fun done in a positive manner. It's working.
Hopefully what our goal is to get everybody down here, if they're not wearing a Young Gun shirt, to think like one. To say, hey, I can make a difference. I can cause just as much havoc as anybody in the nation, okay? Just to sit here and go, hey, I'm a Young Gun. Doesn't matter if I got a shirt. We can have fun, and we can be the 6th man on the court. Coach Sutton is making a difference. He's bringing a lot of discipline and dedication to all his athletes, and that's something I think is very important. And Coach Sutton, he's doing a good job. We're all very proud of him. He's like our son.
So you've been adopted, Coach.
Oh, well, that's a good group to be adopted by. When we went to Norman to play the Sooners, and that was a big game, they had called and said, when are you going to arrive? And I told them approximately what time. We normally try to get to the game about an hour ahead of time. And there they were. At the University of Oklahoma, when they announced the players before the game, they rolled out this big red carpet. Well, these guys, when our bus drove up, they rolled out this big orange carpet, and our guys got a big bang out of that. But they have done a wonderful job in creating enthusiasm that we need. You mentioned the 6th man in basketball, how important it is. I've talked about it. They are spearheading the enthusiasm there, and I think there's a place for college athletics for our young people, our college students, to do what they're doing. I always think of Duke because their students are very, very clever in some of the signs they put up. Well, these guys have come up with some pretty good sayings, all clean. That's the only thing I hope that I know they'll be under control, but I know at times some of our students get a little rowdy and they come out with some profane words, and we don't want that. So if any of our students are seeing or they're watching my show today or tonight, I hope that you'll refrain yourself from doing anything that would be derogatory or would not look good as far as Oklahoma State. We can win, but we want to do it in a clean and a classy manner.
Yeah, just follow the lead of the Young Guns. They really are fun to be around, so look for them next time you're in Gallagher-Iba Arena. Coach's comment coming up next. You stay with us. The Eddie Sutton Show will be back right after this.
Today I want to talk about the importance of practice. Many times people ask me why someone isn't playing. I get phone calls, I get letters, and everything we do as far as playing time is determined by what a young man does on the practice court. I don't buy that theory he's a game player. I really believe in a very sincere way that you will play in a ball game like you practice. So players mature at different stages. Sometimes they'll go into a semi-slump, and when they're not playing well, maybe they won't get as much playing time in a ball game. I do know this. I've known too many successful people, not only in athletics but in other areas, that have paid the price. There are no shortcuts to being good, and if there are any young players out there, I would urge you to make sure you go out there and you listen to your coach, do what he asks you to do. He wants to win more than anyone else, and work hard, not only during the season, but for young players, as we tell our guys, hey, you got to work in the off season. You got to get over there on your own and shoot that basketball and develop your game. So practice is very, very important. We work hard at it. We work long at it. Our practice sessions started about 3 hours in length. We've cut back as the season has progressed, and now we're averaging about 2.5 hours. By the end of the year, we'll have 2-hour practices.
Coach, and I think, and I don't remember what game I was watching, but a couple of the commentators were talking about this very thing, and they both made mention that Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls is one of the greatest practice players around, that he worked just as hard in practice as he does in a game, which obviously has contributed to his success.
There have been a lot of great players, but in my opinion, he's the best the game's ever seen, and that's why he is that way. I know Michael. I've talked with him several times. I coached against him when I was at Arkansas. He's a very, very dedicated young man, and he has maximized his athletic skills about as well as anyone I've ever known.
Okay, we appreciate the cards and letters each week. If you would like to ask Coach Sutton a question, you may do so by putting your question on a postcard. Send it to Ask Coach Sutton, 101 Gallagher Iba Arena, Oklahoma State University, Stillwater, Oklahoma 74078. And this week our question is from Kent Fisher of Bethany. And Kent, we appreciate you writing in. You will receive 2 tickets to an upcoming Cowboy game. And Coach, Kent wants to know, how is Dennis Burbank going to play baseball and basketball?
It's very difficult, but here's a young man who's truly dedicated, a hard worker. He has been throwing during the week down in our basement, in our indoor workout facility, then comes up on the basketball court and works out. On Sunday, they had a workout outside, and he threw, and Coach Ward indicated to him, and he told me that he was in better condition than he'd ever been. He's lost a little bit of weight. He said his legs were in great shape. I'm sure that the baseball team will be wanting him before we're ready to let him go. But he has helped our team very, very much, and he pitched that national championship game a year ago, and he'll pitch a lot of victories for the Cowboys this spring. It's just an added responsibility on his part. Very few athletes could do that in the specialization we have today in intercollegiate athletics, but I think he's one. He'll finish the season with us, then he'll go on over to the Cowboy baseball team.
All right, good luck to Dennis. Big week coming up in Big 8 hoops. Let's take a look at the schedule coming up. Kansas plays at Kansas State. That's the way to start a week. That's always a good ball game. Then the Cowboys go on the road to play Colorado. Missouri will be at Nebraska, and Oklahoma travels to Iowa State. And then to end the week, the Cowboys go on the road to play Nebraska. Colorado plays at Kansas State, Kansas at Iowa State, and Missouri will be at Oklahoma. And Coach, first up, you've got Colorado, new coach out there in Joe Harrington. They've beaten Nebraska in that building. Not an easy task.
A very tough assignment, not only in Boulder, but in Lincoln against the Cornhuskers. I said earlier in the show, the University of Nebraska, by winning 2 games this early in the season, they are in the driver's seat, and they are a legitimate top 10 basketball team, the best Nebraska team maybe ever. Colorado with a new coach in Joe Harrington. I watched his ball club last year at Long Beach State, and he's trying to play a more up-tempo game. They caught my eye when they went to Wake Forest in the ACC and beat them 17 points on the road. They're having some of the same problems that we have had here, in that when you go in and put a new program in, you are going to be inconsistent. Both talented ball clubs, both big ball clubs, they will create a problem for us that we have not seen both at University of Colorado and Nebraska in defensive assignments. When you're playing 2 and 3 guards, and for instance, Nebraska is starting a 7'2", 6'9", 6'8", 6'8" off guard, and then a smaller guard. That makes it tough when you play man defense. So we may have to play some zone on the road this week. All
right, the Oklahoma State Cowboys go on the road to take on Colorado, and then they will be stay on the road. And you're not coming back home, right? You're going to go from Colorado to Lincoln, right?
We're going to fly to Denver, Denver to Lincoln, and we'll miss one additional day of school, but we feel like the wear and tear on our bodies by coming back and then going back to Lincoln, it may hurt us. Also, financially, it's a lot less expensive to do that. And we're going to take our books on the road, so we will be studying.
Okay, take the books with you. We appreciate you being with us here on the Eddie Sutton Show. We'll see you next time. For Eddie Sutton and Oklahoma State University, I'm Robbie Robertson. Goodbye, everybody.